Chapter 6 Lothering. Nick POV. The return to Mother Base was a quiet affair. Morrigan squeaked as we took off and gripped Aiden's hand like there was no tomorrow, but it was a smooth ride otherwise. It's not that I don't like Morrigan, but she had to go through a long character growth, over 10 years, and until that happens, she's going to be a right bitch. It only took about 50 minutes compared to the 2 hours needed to find Flemeth's hut. I spied Morrigan's awestruck look on her face through the rear-view mirror. I landed the Warthog in front of the house. "Thank you for flying air, Nick. Please step out of the car in an orderly fashion," I joked. Theron walked out far smoother than before. Fergus kinda flopped out as Dogmeat followed him out. Aiden came out and opened Morrigan's door. I rolled my eyes. Good lord man, at least play a little hard to get. Morrigan was shaky-legged for a few seconds before she got her balance. Aiden then helped his brother off the floor. "'Tis an amazing house you have created," Morrigan complimented. "Thank you. I'm asking you to stay in the living room." I spoke in less of a request and more as a demand. "And please don't touch any of the runes you find, they are not toys. Aiden, you can talk with your brother out here or in the kitchen, it's just off the living room." Theron nodded to his fellow warden as he escorted Morrigan into the house. I didn't want to be around such a sensitive moment. Everyone was asleep, except for Julie and Duncan, who was still at the controls and watching the world map respectfully. Theron gave Morrigan, whose head was swiveling back and forth trying to gain all the information she could, the last seat in the room, and he just sat on the floor cross-legged, following his fellow wardens into a long rest. I walked up to Julie and Duncan, who didn't look away from the map. "Julie, you can take a break. I got it from here." I patted Julie on the back, pushing her to her room. While she may have been at my party, she didn't get all the benefits I possess. Gamer's mind and Gamer's body let me go without sleep with no negative side effects that I knew of. The same could not be said for her and Jackie. "Julie, where's Jackie?" "She's locking down the engine room and other important rooms. We don't want people getting into something important." I nodded at that. We could control Mother Base from the control deck in the living room, but it's important to check manually. There were not enough rooms in the house, so many of them will have to bunk in the rooms downstairs. I made levels 2 to 3 all rooms for people who would have to live here for a long period, making it over 60 open rooms. I had more rooms on the other 2 levels, not including the engine room, but they didn't have anything in them. They're more for storage. "Go get some sleep. You haven't rested in some time," I said, taking control of Mother Base. "Okay," she said, walking away with a small yawn. "Duncan, do you know where we should head to next?" I asked. "Lothering. It's the closest village to Ostagar, and should be warned that the Blight is heading right for them." He spoke with a stoic face. I couldn't read him. I'm not sure if it's because he's a warden and he's seen death so often that he is no longer affected by it, or if he's always like that. "Are you okay, Duncan? That battle could not have been easy." He released a long sigh. "I will be. I knew that, when I became a warden I would die fighting Dark Spawn. All wardens do, but to see so many die. I just need some time to process it. I am grateful you arrived when you did. May I ask how you knew where we were?" "We learned that an army of monsters were coming out of the ground, and followed the King's Road. But it was the beacon that alerted me to your location. The storm made it hard to spot where your people were at," I answered. "I guess the beacon was useful after all." He frowned. "I began following the Imperial Highway until I found the village on the globe map. That's it. I still can't wrap my head around this map. It has such details. Is it possible to view it anywhere?" "Thinking on somewhere specific?" I asked. "Weishaupt in Anderfels," he requested. I passed him a softball-sized rock, covered in runes. "Hold this and think of the location. It will use your knowledge of the area, and any map you would have used." The globe began to move and zoom in on a castle in the mountains. "Amazing," he whispered. "This must be the only map of the whole planet. I had no knowledge of this continent to the west. We live in such a large world. Why did you come here? You could go anywhere in the world, but you came to a place in the midst of a blight?" asked Morrigan from her seat. I don't know how Flemeth raised you. She gained a shocked look at the information that I knew, but my parents taught me to care for people. That I am the change I want in the world. And I want to help people. Many don't want help, she countered. You'd be surprised, but you're right, some will reject my help, but I don't have to help them. I'll let them help themselves. I won't cry over people who want to live their own lives, but if they get in my way, I'll just get rid of them. She was taken back by how calmly I said that. I have no doubt I'll have to kill a lot of people, fools who think I have to listen to their demands because I'm an outsider. We'll arrive in 35 minutes, we'll stay over Lothering until everyone awakens, and then we'll make a plan on what we'll do next and we can introduce ourselves. I said, pointing at her. Sounds like a good start. She nodded. I'll suggest you take a nap. Everyone has been in battle so they won't wake for some time, Duncan suggested. Fergus stormed into the room looking ready to kill someone. I need to get to Antiva. Can you get me there? Antiva, why, what's wrong? I asked. Why would we go there? My wife and son are on their way there. Aidan and Lady Naisha were able to lead him to safety when my home was attacked, he answered. This is another change. With Naisha being with Duncan at the time of the Cousland betrayal, she was able to save Fergus's wife and child. The wardens cannot just leave a blight, Duncan stated. Fergus looked ready to punch Duncan in the face. Hold on, we will make a plan later today and we will be over Lothering. If I can gain a wagon I could add runes to it so it could move without a horse. But Duncan's right, we can't just leave. If no wardens are here to stop the blight, nowhere will be safe. I pointed out. Fergus still didn't seem to be any calmer, but he seemed to no longer want to attack Duncan. Get some sleep, we'll be ready to act when everyone is awake. He just nodded, rested against the couch, and fell asleep quickly. Seems like he was running on fumes. Thank you, spoke Duncan. I understand the want to make sure your family is safe, but if don't stop the blight now, it will only spread, and thousands will die. That was a grim sentence. Get some rest, both of you. We'll have a long journey ahead of us. They both nodded and found a spot on the ground to sleep, and Morpheus took them rather quickly. I locked in the coordinates of Lothering. This is going to be a wild adventure. // Naisha POV. I was awakened by the most wonderful smell. I popped my eyes open to see if I could spot what was making that smell. It took me a second to remember where I was. It all came back to me after I looked out the window and spotted the clouds. I gripped onto the seat I was in. I was on a flying piece of earth. I always thought they were joking about how people on the surface would fly into the sky and never come back, but look at me now. Hey, you hungry? I looked up at Nick holding a plate with some kind of fluffy cookie. They're pancakes. They're made of milk, butter, egg, sugar, flour, baking powder, and salt. Plus, I add a little vanilla for a little more depth of flavor. They're a little sweet, but Jack and Julia won't eat anything else. I took the plate with a fork and knife. I looked over to Kaelin and Alistair, who were eating like starved wolves. Now that I see them next to each other, they look like brothers. Maybe it's a human thing, but I doubt it. Aidan is human and doesn't look like them. By the paragons, these are delicious. I practically inhaled my pancakes. If I made these in Orzammar, I would be made a paragon on the spot. Before I could ask for seconds, 3 more fell on my plate. I looked up, spotting Nick with a plate stacked with a comically large number of pancakes. He was walking around giving us seconds. I noticed that you wardens eat like there's no tomorrow, he explained as he gave more pancakes to Aidan and Fergus. The process of becoming Grey Wardens amplifies our metabolism, so we must eat almost 3 times more than usual, Duncan stated. Thanks for telling us. I guess it has been a rite of passage for all recruits to eat slop, seeing if they notice. Really hazing. How old are these guys? It was the worst, Alistair spoke up. I ate through 3 whole bowls before I realized what I was eating. I snickered. Okay, it's a little funny. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Nick Walters. I came from the northern continent of Rezum. Nick introduced himself. One of the horned women walked next to him. I am Jack Hope, from the town of Hope. I come from the Shine Islands in Resum. I am a Runbears. Nick calls us tieflings, so, if he calls us that, be aware it means the same thing. Jack introduced herself. I've never heard of such a race, but I did live in a cave my entire life. And I'm Julia Hope. I'm Jack's sister and planning to become a runemaster. She proclaimed. We are adventurers, explorers, merchants, chefs, and just about anything under the sun and moon. At your service, Nick said with a grandstanding voice. And this is Morrigan, Aiden's girlfriend. I guess, he added as a side note. Aiden started choking on his pancakes, and Morrigan glared at Nick with a blush. I barked out a laugh. I'm not his girlfriend, she hissed, but I didn't believe her, especially with that blush on her face. She got it bad. I spoke with Duncan yesterday, and we came up with the decision that we need to have a plan on what happens next. Nick spoke. He's right, with the failure at Ostagar, the Dark Spawn will now begin to march on Ferelden. We must rally the troops and try again before the Dark Spawn gain too much strength. Kalen spoke up in anger. It seems like having your advisor leave you to die tends to make you angry. I'll keep that in mind. That's no longer going to work, Duncan stated. We need more soldiers, more people to help us fight. We need to use these. He put down the treaties we recovered from our trials. We need help from the Dalish, dwarves, and the mages. What of us? Asked Garrett. We need to warn the people that Ostagar was a failure and the Blight is at their front door. He's right. If Loghain didn't warn anyone, a lot of people are going to die. I don't see why he wouldn't though. As we plan, we are over Lothering. That caught the brothers' attention. We would have to split up. We need to warn the wardens in the Free Marches and Orlice. I can go north and warn the Free Marches on my way to Antiva to find my wife, Fergus spoke up. We could go with them, added Garrett. We have family in the upper echelons of Kirkwall. We could have their leadership spread the word. If you are part of the upper caste of this city, why are you in Ferelden? Then what are you doing down here? Asked one of the soldiers. I don't see how that's any of your business. Carver snapped at the soldier. Garrett placed a hand on his shoulder, calming him down. It's family business and we'll leave it at that. I don't know what it was about Garrett's voice, but it had some kind of power because the soldier shut his mouth and kept it shut. Nick tossed something to Fergus and Garrett. Here, this is a phone Mark 1. They are long-range communication devices. They can be used to communicate with someone with another phone. Nick explained what they could do. After explaining what these phones could do, I'm fully convinced that these things will change the world. I'll give you 2 satellites to use later. We should go to Warden Commander Clarrel and tell her about the failure at Ostagar, and to be ready if we fail to stop the Blight in Ferelden. Spoke one of the 2 senior wardens that were with Duncan. This man looked like he was in his 50s, I think his name was Ken. Duncan looked uneased with us having fewer wardens in Ferelden, but he knew that we needed the cavalry ready if we failed. We can't leave the Blight unchecked. Wardens are the only ones who can stop the Blight and we only have 7 wardens. To lose one of you could be devastating to the fight against the Dark Spawn. Duncan replied. What if I send a letter to Empress Selene? Kalen asked. Nick shook his head. That's unwise. This Empress Selene is still a ruler of a different country. Even if she did want to help, those who work for her may not and would use Ferelden's weakened state to try and gain land or even take over again. If you're going to ask for help, you need to be in a position of power. You're going to need the people in Duncan's treaties. Nick pointed out. Kalen had a frown on his face, clearly not liking the idea of not being helpful. What of Loghain? He did leave the king to die, asked Alistair. We can't just let that go. We need to know what happened at Ostagar before we make any accusations. For all we know, Loghain could have been attacked by Dark Spawn and was forced to retreat. In the past, the Dark Spawn have pushed back armies like the one we had at Ostagar before, sometimes even defeating him outright. Duncan explained. If that's true, why didn't we just have more people to begin with? Then why didn't you have more people? Asked Jack. She is braver than me. To talk to the king and Duncan like that, but she is royalty, sorta. We were hoping to stop the blight before it could get a foothold on the surface, but that didn't work the way we wanted, explained Kalen. You mean how you wanted, Mr. Great King of Ferelden? Does that mean that all ice is not on the table? Asked Ken. That would suck major dust. From what I understand, all ice has thousands of troops, and even if that didn't matter, they did have hundreds of Grey Wardens. If we can't go directly to all ice, then we will have to go around, Ken spoke. We both know why I was here, Duncan. I'm old and I came for my final fight. I'll go with these young men and go through the free marches and go around to all ice, warning every Grey Warden outpost, from here to there. Duncan looked very reluctant but nodded. If the blight was already killing that man, it would be best to use him to deliver a final message. I'll go with him, in case the worst were to happen, spoke the younger warden, John I think, next to Ken. He looked about 41, but I wasn't sure. All I knew was that he had fewer wrinkles than the other guy. Duncan sighed. I could understand Duncan. We have 7 wardens. One was planning on dying in the battle with the archdemon and the other wanted to get reinforcements. 4 were untrained wardens, and himself. He was between a rock and a hard place. Very well, you two will alert the wardens of what happened here, and the rest of us must gather an army here. He made it sound like that was the hardest decision he ever had to make. What of Uncle Aemon? He was going to head south to join us but was delayed. He should have his soldiers at Redcliffe. Kalen rejoined the conversation. Nick cleared his voice. Okay, so here's the plan. We stop here in Lothering and split up. He pointed at Ken, John, Carver, and Garrett. You 4 will make your way north to warn the people of the blight. They nodded. He pointed to the rest of the soldiers. You guys need to return to your lords and ladies and spread the word about what happened. As for the rest of us, to Redcliffe, west of Lothering, Aidan added. Redcliffe, to gain the help of the ruler, and from there we will head to. Nick paused again. The Majors, the Circle of Maggie is just north of Redcliffe, added Alistair. And from there we head to. The Dwarves, they northwest of Lake Callanhad, across the Tower of Maggie, added Duncan. Oh, I didn't know where Orzammar was on a surface map. This is cool. And lastly the Elves, which are somewhere in the Basilian Forest. They don't stay in one place for long, finished Theron. Okay, so if we do everything right and we take a week in each place, then add the time it would be for each of these powers to get their shit together, and where are all these people meeting? Nick asked as he pressed runes on the control table. Danerum, answered Kalen. And to have them all meet up in Danerum would take 4 to 6 months, and that's with Mother Base cutting down on travel time. Nick finished. And without Mother Base, I asked. While this flying piece of Earth is impressive, I do not want to be on a flying island this entire time. On foot, about a year, give or take a month. I guess I better get over my completely justified and ingrained fear of heights. Does anyone know anything about Lothering? Julia asked. We do, Garrett answered, walking up to Nick and directing him to a farmstead just outside the village. We live on this farm here, outside of town. I doubt we'll need that corn where we're going. Nick laughed and pressed some runes. We're on the descent, we will land in 20 minutes. // Nick POV. Landing, the board is green, legs deployed, and, landfall, landing successful. I called out. Everyone released a breath of relief. You know, I have landed Mother Base before. Naisha shrugs. I'm just happy that we're on the ground, she said with the biggest smile I have ever seen. I guess she didn't like the view. Hawk brothers, we're going first to explain it to your family. Jack, Julie, can you help everyone out next? I asked. Jackie gave me a thumbs up, and the Hawk brothers followed me out the door and toward the elevator. Hey, is there anything I should know about your family? Our father died almost 5 years ago, and we live here with our mother and sister live here, Garrett answered, getting on the elevator next to me. I nodded as Carver stood next to him. As I looked over the edge of the elevator, I spotted an elderly woman looking out of her window with a young woman next to her. Human sorcerer. Bethany Hawk. LVL, 7. Age, 18. HP 180 180ths. MP 80 80ths. Street, she is a farmhand. V, she works on a farm. Dex, she can swirl her staff like a champ. Int, she understands that her magic can help the family. Wis, she understands that if she is ever caught doing magic her family will be broken. Char, her smile can make your heart skip. Luck, she hasn't been caught by the chantry. Bethany's magic manifested when she was 9 when she threw a local bully across a field without touching him. Her family was forced to move in all haste, eventually settling on the outskirts of Lothering. While she was noted for her curiosity about religious stories, she mostly stayed hidden away at home. This was, of course, because of her arcane talents. She's scared at the look you're giving her. If that's Bethany, then the woman next to her must be her mother. Human farmer. Leandra Amel. LVL, 3. Age, 46. HP 70 70ths. MP 7 7ths. Street, she is a farmhand. V, she works on a farm. Dex, always does her morning stretches. Int, love is worth chasing. Wis, still sent letters to her parents, before they died. Char, her daughter has her smile. Luck, she found her true love. Leandra Amel is the widow of apostate mage Malcolm Hawke, and the mother of Garrett, Bethany, and Carver. Her birth family, the Amels, are nobility in Kirkwall. She believes you're a dangerous man. Is that them? I nodded my head to the house. Hawke looked over my shoulder and spotted his family at the window and began to wave at them. For a moment nothing happened until Bethany came running out of the house waving back with her mother behind her, at a steady walk. A dog followed behind her. It had a beautiful white coat. They met us at the elevator. Mabbury Guard. Moon. LVL, 6. Age, 6. HP 150 150ths. MP 1/1. Street, Doggy Jaws. V. If given the chance she would run around outside all day. Dex, cannot catch her tail. Int, +2 doggo level intelligence. Wis, +2 doggo level wisdom. Char, she's the best girl. Luck, she has a loving family. Mabberries are rumored to be created by a mage who wanted an assistant but didn't want to work with humans. She is in charge of protecting the Hawk women and is not afraid of anything. She fears nothing, especially not your weak glare. Garrett, Carver, she screamed at us. What are you doing on a flying island? Garrett laughed. Admit it, you've seen me in worse places, he joked. Bethany pulls her brothers into a powerful hug. I took a few steps away, allowing the family to reunite without a stranger standing around. They broke their hug after 5 minutes. Man, this family can hug. I coughed, getting their attention. Others are coming down, I said, pointing up, as more elevators began lowering. Quick question, you're not scared of meeting new people, right? The women gave me strange looks. Jack came down in the other elevator with the king and wardens. They didn't look to be in awe or anything. I guess they don't know who he is. That makes some sort of sense. They're commoners from a far-off village, so they wouldn't know who he is, only that they have a king. Greetings. It is I. The Hawk women just gave him a blank look. I almost burst out laughing at the face he made when no one was applauding his entrance. Ah. Nice to meet you, Mr. Knight. Bethany sorta greeted. She was just trying to be polite. Kaylin looked dejected at her lack of awe. Kaylin, we're on the outskirts of a village, in front of people who have probably never been to Denham. I whispered to him. There's a good chance they have never seen what you look like. Realization appeared on his face. Right, he dragged out his response. He coughed, getting back into king mode. I am King Kaylin, ruler of Ferelden. He started making heroic poses, as the Hawk women continued to give him a blank look. Garrett leaned over and whispered something to them, causing their eyes to shoot wide open. "It is an honor to meet you, Your Majesty. You have a very impressive flying island." Bethany quickly bowed and praised him. "That's mine, actually," I whispered. "Thank you. It is good to see my people safe," he proclaimed, still posing. "This Muppet," I began, but just let it go. "That's going to bite him in the ass later. Ignore him." He gave me a shocked look, still posing. "You must be Bethany and Leandra. Carver and Garrett told me about you." The brothers gave me a strange look. They never told me about them, but, observe, gave me some info. Your beauty was underplayed. I kissed both their right hands. The brothers were not happy with my compliment. "Also sorry about your crops. Garrett made me do it." Garrett rolled his eyes. "What? I didn't want her to blame me." "Mother, we need to pack up and get ready to leave," Garrett warned. "The Blight is heading this way, and we need to leave most haste. Carver, help me bring the cart over." Carver nodded and began helping his brother bring out the cart they would use to take food to the village when their crops were ready to go to market. Her mother and sister looked shocked by the news. "The Blight is heading this way?" Bethany asked. "What do we do?" asked their mother. We're going to Kirkwall to gain aid for the Blight, or at the very least warn them of what could happen." Garrett summarized the plan, as he and his brother brought out the cart. It was pretty big. They probably used it to make a single trip to the village. "Okay. I'm going to start placing runes on this thing. Julie, can you help?" I asked. "Let's get this thing moving," she yelled with enthusiasm. She loves making runes. The Hawk women backed away from her, only to be told something from Carver, making them wide-eyed. I look over to the wardens and Morrigan. "You guys go into the village and get some information on what is going on. With any luck, people are leaving and can spread the fact that the king is still alive," I ordered. They gave them a single nod and moved out. "I'll work on the cart in the meantime." And Kaylin was still making heroic poses, shining in the afternoon light. Leliana POV. People were abuzz, with the king's army passing by this morning without the king or giving any indication that they beat the Darkspawn. People began to think that they failed to beat the Blight and the Darkspawn were marching this way. Some people started packing up and leaving as fast as possible, others were trying to hunker down for the long haul. Now everyone was in an all-out panic. A flying island was spotted hovering over Lothering and everyone was running around calling it a sign from the Maker, that we should repent. They were being silly. Why would the Maker send an island? After being up there all day, everyone just got bored and moved on with the day, only the Chantry was calling it a sign from the Maker. The Maker sends messages through dreams, everyone knows that. No one listens to Mother Sophia anyway. It was some time afternoon when the island began moving down towards one of the farms on the outskirts of the village. The Chantry mothers and sisters looked like they were getting ready to make a trip and see if they could find the flying island, but before they could go out and look for it, a group of heavily armed weirdos came into the village from the direction the island was landing. They looked like a mercenary group, with all their mismatched armor. One of them had a beautiful set of armor. It shined like gold. "Quickly to the tavern." In all the hero stories they always get the next lead in a tavern. The one in the golden armor called out, taking the lead. He sounded like a young child on their first visit to a new village. I walked into the tavern from the back and spied them from the masses. "Barkeep, we need information." The man in the golden armor slammed a gold coin on the table. The bartender's eyes seemed to pop out of his head. He snatched that coin faster than I could grab my knives. "Ah, what do you need?" "I'm 34, a widow, I have one 13-year-old daughter, and I own this bar, the only one in Lothering." "We're in, Lothering." The owner just started giving out random information he knew. The man in the golden armor tried to calm him down and was getting nowhere. The only elf in the group walked up to the bar and slammed his hand on the table, silencing the room. "Important information," he stated. The king's army came by in the morning and headed northeast back to Danerum. There are rumors that they were beaten by the dark spawn and the king was killed. According to some of Loghain's men, it was the Grey Warden's fault for the death of the king. He spoke calmly. The golden man slammed his hand on the bar again in anger. Nonsense. They did not kill the king. He screamed in rage. Oh yeah, and how do you know that? Screamed another man in armor, who was drinking in a seat near the bar. I saw it myself. I was in Ostaga when Loghain said it himself. The man in the golden armor turns to the drunken man with the fury of a dragon. Because I am Caelan Theron, king of Ferelden, and I stand in front of you, alive. His statement felt like a tidal wave. The soldier fell on his ass. Spread the word. I survived the blight, but it's still heading this way. Everyone must leave here. The Darkspawn cannot be too far from here. I will give it a week, maybe two, before they will get here. Where should we go? Asked a villager. The best place to go is somewhere with walls. The Grey Wardens and I are collecting a bigger, stronger army to defeat the blight before it becomes too dangerous. Be strong, my fellow Fereldans, we will save our home. And we will become stronger because we don't kneel. Not to Tevinter, not to Orlais, and not to the dark spawn. The way he spoke seemed to rejuvenate everyone's spirit. Everyone rose to their feet and gave a cheer. King indeed, spoke the elf. I walked up to them. Excuse me, I spoke up. My bard training came to the surface. I lowered my head, batted my eyes, lifted my breasts, and added a slightly higher pitch to my voice. He was immediately drawn to my breasts. Only for a second, but it was enough. Sorry, Mom, but I'm married, he said, turning away. But my good friend Alistair is very single. The man to his right started choking on air. I'm guessing that's Alistair. I'm not that interested in the chantry, sorry, Alistair said. I blinked for a second. I looked down, remembering that I was still in my chantry robes. Oops. I see how the chantry has so many followers. Spoke the elf. Morrigan, are you planning to become a chantry sister? The black-haired woman, Morrigan, gave him a confused look. Because of your boobies, called out the dwarf, squeezing her breast together, mimicking me. The elf and dwarf high-five. Morrigan rolled her eyes. Enough, you two, spoke up a very handsome, blue-eyed, black-haired, well-built man coming to Morrigan's defense. Boo, complained the dwarf. Morrigan is a grown woman. She can take a joke. And if not, she'll roast our butts. Have faith in your girlfriend Aidan, calmly spoke the elf. I'm not his girlfriend, Morrigan denied with a blush. You know, when people say the same lie over and over again, they usually get better at it. How come you're getting worse? Asked the dwarf, earning another high five from the elf. I coughed, getting their attention. Excuse me. My name is Leliana. I was a lay sister here in the church, but I had a vision from the Maker that showed me that people will come to stop the blight and that I should help them. Aidan seemed not to care what I had to say the moment I said I was part of the chantry. That's nice, please go away. Aidan immediately rejected me. Was it something I said? I'm sorry, young miss, but we could not take a chantry lay sister with us on this dangerous mission. Spoke to King Caelan, rejecting me as well. I'm getting worried. I need to go with these people if I am to do the Maker's work. Tell me, why is a bard working as a chantry sister? Asked the man with the ponytail and beard. That caught my attention. How did this man know I was a bard? I'm a warden commander. I've seen most bard tricks. Yes, I was a bard in the past. But I left that life behind. I came here to start a new life away from the violence and death that was the Orlesian game. I confessed. I didn't know bards could retire. The warden commander asked. Most don't. I didn't want to get into it. Our mission is dangerous, he stated. Death could happen at any moment. That's a risk I'm willing to make. The Maker gave me a mission. The danger isn't going to stop me. Then I welcome you. Hold on there, Duncan, spoke up the dwarf. I'm all good with having more people fighting the Darkspawn, but we just can't invite people into Mother Base. Correct. Morrigan got a free pass because of Ashabelina. This big-breasted woman does not have that sort of power, spoke the elf. Who's Ashabelina? I'm sure he will be fine with it, spoke the king. Who wouldn't want a highly deadly assassin in their home to fight monsters? He said with such a straight face that I don't know if he was joking. Everyone just looked at him. We should ask Nick before we let her go with us, Morrigan said. I don't think she wanted me to go with them. I also have a dog. She came with the army but stayed behind when the army marched to Danerum. She seems to be waiting for someone. Morrigan had an annoyed look on her face. I guess she doesn't like dogs. / Nick POV. I was under the Hawk family wagon adding multiple runes that would use mana to power the cart. I added a rune of mana absorption that would lead to rotation runes I placed on the back wheel axis, followed by dampening runes that would help the suspension. With all the runes on this bad girl, she will be able to move at least 40 miles per hour. I heard Carver and Jackie arguing over the crops we were trying to buy. 30 silvers, Jack offered. 2 gold, Carver argued. You've lost your damn mind. 2 gold for that number of vegetables is insane. They're fresh. Fresh. No vegetables are worth that much, no matter how fresh it is. Fine, 1 gold 90 silvers. I'll give you 45 silvers and not a copper more. You crazy merchant. I tuned him out. They would probably go at it for hours. How is everything going down here? Asked Hawk, bending down to see my face. Good. Most of the runes are working correctly, and after adding more durability to the cart you won't have to be worried about it breaking down anytime soon, I said, coming out from underneath the cart, wiping off the dirt from my hands. You'll have to learn to drive, but it will be rather easy. It shouldn't take long. Nick, I need you to copy these books. Julie came over with her collection of The Paladin and the Stable Boy. I gave her The People's Eyebrow. My new friend, Bethy, doesn't have any good literature. And, while it's true that I haven't finished it, that doesn't mean she can't. The Paladin and the Stable Boy. Never heard of it, Hawk said, opening a book. His eyes slowly began to widen, his face began to redden. A woman's mouth can't do that. Can it? He kept reading, before Bethany, who came out of bloody nowhere, snatched the book away. That's not for you, she shrieked with a massive blush on her face. I laughed, grabbed the book in her hand and used my copy skill, making her a new book. Keep those safe. I have no doubt that if Carver reads those, his head would explode. I joked. Hawk laughed for a second before his face dropped into a scowl. We have company, he warned. Looking over to the road, I spotted 5 people coming up the road wearing bright red and gold robes with 2 Templars, if their armor said anything. Great. They began walking toward Mother Base without saying anything to us. They started praying in front of the base like that was going to do anything. Excuse me, can I help you? I asked. They looked over at me and froze. Hold, abomination. You will not enter the Maker's holy throne. One of the women yelled at me. Probably my eyes. Quickly, Templars, kill it. And there, she points at Julie and Jack. Desire demons. One of the Templars rushed me. I did nothing. The Templar swung his sword at me, only for his blade to bounce off, throwing him to the ground. One of the first things I put on all my outfits was a shield rune to protect me from most mundane dangers, like swords and arrows. What are you doing? I asked. The man got off the ground and used cleanse, erupting into blue flames. The ambient magic has been pushed away. You cannot use magic from the Fade for 10 seconds. He swung his sword again, only for it to bounce off. These guys are used to mages taking magic from the Fade to empower themselves. I, on the other hand, had a ridiculously large magic core compared to the mages in theaters, so I didn't have to take magic from the Fade to do spells. The Templar just looked at me like I was the most dangerous being on the planet. I stamped my foot, sinking him up to his neck. Wah, wah, wait, He tried to get out of the ground. I looked at the other man who was running at Jackie. "Keep your guard up," I called out. The Templar on the ground looked at me. "Do you think your demon can defeat a man of the Maker? No matter how powerful it is, it will fall. I don't know where this guy got his confidence, but damn, give me some of that." "I'm talking to your man." He looked confused. "Allow me to explain." The younger Templar swung his sword at Jackie, only for her to slap his blade to the side, like an adult would a cocky child with a new toy sword. "You see, she's a tiefling." "Tiefling? Yep, there are people from the continent up north, past Tevinter." The young Templar swung again only for the same thing to happen. "Don't let her size and weight fool you." The young man gave a war cry, only for her to sidestep away from his strike. "You see, tieflings have not only heavier bones but denser muscles as well." The Templar unleashed a cleansing spell pushing away the fade, and it's best not to forget their tail. The Templar came in hot, only to be sucker slapped by her tail as she dodges for the 4th time, dropping him to the floor. She was trained by her father, a sword master, so understand why your boy is getting his ass kicked. The young Templar tried to get up one more time, but having enough of the poor kid getting smacked around, I just sunk him into the ground like his partner. A young Chantry sister ran over and threw herself over the Templar. "Please, no, have mercy," she screamed. I looked over to the Templar by my feet. "Girlfriend," he explained. I rolled my eyes. "So, are we finished? Can you go away now?" I asked the Templar at my feet. "We came to enter the Maker's throne." I gave him a confused look. "The Flying Island. Damn, that's a good name," I whispered. "That island is mine," I answered. "Heathen, like I would believe a lie like that." "You abomination," one of the women yelled. I sunk her into the ground as well, only leaving her head exposed. "Release me, you monster, the Chantry will come for your head." She kept ranting. I pushed her away, about 30 feet. "So, are we done here? Or do I have to bury all of you?" I asked the rest of the sisters. They all shook their heads. "We're good," one of them spoke up. I nodded. "Well, okay then, Hawk, let's get to work teaching you to drive." I walked over to the cart. "Hold. Wait, what of us?" spoke up the Templar from the ground. "Will you leave us here to die?" "By the power of Grey Skull." I sighed. "No, I'm going to dig you out when you learn your lesson, or until I have to leave." I removed his helmet. Didn't want him to get heatstroke. // Teaching Hawk to drive was easier to do than I thought. After 30 minutes of practice, Hawk was driving at full speed up and down the road, making wild drifting maneuvers like he had been doing them all his life. God, I'm happy I added more durability, or it would have exploded into splinters. Okay, I waved my hands at him. "Calm down. You still need to use that to get to Denerim. Don't go breaking it." Hawk drove up to the house, parking its back pointed to the door for easier loading. "It works great. With this, we can make it to Denerim in no time," Hawk said, hopping off the cart. "He shakes his legs to get feeling back in them." I nodded, and summoned 4 of my unique 9-foot golems. "Here, I'm giving these to you." He gave me a shocked look. "They'll help you get to Kirkwall. The rest of us are leaving, and you have a very important job. I can't have you dying, so I match 1 to each of your family, so you don't have to be worried about them." "How powerful are they?" he asked. "I only saw one of them in the tower." "I made these bad boys special." I snapped my fingers, and one of them walked up next to us. I pointed at a tree in the distance. The golem raised its arm, transforming into a large cylinder. Boom! And a bolt of condensed lightning shot out of the hand and turned the tree into dust. Everyone, but Julie, Jackie, and I, was stunned into silence. "It has 2 shots before it has to recharge," I spoke. How long do we, need to charge it?" He had a hard time speaking. "It takes at least a day. So, don't go blowing your load all at once." I placed a small mini arc reactor in the center of the golem, wrapped the magic engine around it, and covered the engine in thick reinforced steel that connected to the golem, which I also reinforced. It had a durability score of 2000. Just to make 7 of these took 1 week of non-stop work. I made these to last, but they aren't unbreakable. It has a self-repairing rune that will put it back together, but it will not be able to do anything until it's fully repaired. He nodded. Don't take them. If you do, you will be slapping the face of the maker. Screamed the mother from the ground. Don't take anything from this abomination. Your souls will be corrupted. This woman does not stop. The sisters were upset for a while, but after 30 more minutes, they began to relax. One of them even took a ride with Hawk. Most of them just sat on Hawk's porch until I chose to let the mother and the Templars go. Do you have to deal with this all day? I asked the Templar by my feet, as the woman continued to rant. She was sent to Lothering because it was such a far-out place that doesn't have a lot of followers, so she can't do much damage, he answered. It gets annoying. I looked down the road and let out a sigh. Finally, down the road came the wardens and co., running at a sprint. Aha! Here comes the righteous warriors of the Maker to strike you down. Screamed the mother. Nick, are you okay? We heard an explosion, shouted Alistair. I waved him off. It's nothing, just doing a presentation, I answered. I looked over at the new people in the group. Human assassin. Leliana, daughter of Oisin. LVL 24. Age, 20. HP 340/340. MP 5/5. Street, can pull a bow like a champ. V, can run a 5K without fainting. Dex, she can bend at any angle. Int, trusted a known liar. Whis, retired from a death game. Char, damn that smile. Luck, she's not dead. She is a bard, not the magic kind, more of the stabby kind. She is an assassin of remarkable skill, but after being betrayed by her once lover and patron, she moved to the village of Lothering in order to get away from the Orlesian game of death. In Lothering she claims to have had a vision from the Maker that she will accompany the wardens on their quest to stop the blight. She is frozen by your stare. She was wearing some kind of leather armor. Moving my gaze, I spotted Sten. Kunari warrior. Sten of the Beresard. LVL, 30. HP 600 and 600ths. MP 5/5. Street, made for power. V, made for running. Dex, is one with his sword. Int, does what he is told. Whis, does what he is told. Char, brick. Luck, does not need any. Sten is a warrior of the Beresard, the vanguard of the Kunari people. He is a stoic and disciplined man with a strong code of ethics, and the way he treats others depends on whether or not they have his respect, which he does not give easily. He is not a typical Kunari as he was born without horns. As with all Kunari appellations, Sten is not a name but a rank. He is wary of your magic. He was still wearing a tunic, but he did have a big fuck-off sword. Mother Sophia, what are you doing in the ground? Asked Leliana. Quickly, fool child, kill that man. He's an abomination, she screamed. I sunk her up to her mouth. So, anyone mind telling me, who thought bringing an assassin and a slave warrior to my ship was a good idea? Leliana opened her mouth to tell her story, but I stopped her. Not you, Leliana. That stopped her cold. That goes for you too, Sten of the Beresard. Everyone was silent. I didn't have much of a problem letting them come along. But Sten did kill an entire family cause he didn't have his sword and Leliana was holding a knife behind her back. We need more people to fight the blight, and both volunteered, spoke Duncan. So, the family killer and the assassin are good enough to save the world? I asked, looking directly at Leliana and Sten. They're all we have at the moment, Duncan answered. We cannot be too picky during a blight. I understand, but for the record, the only one I approve of is Pancake. I pointed to the dog by Naisha. You like her? Naisha smiled at me. I saved her from dying from the blight back at Ostagar. She came to Lothering and waited for me. She's amazing. I laughed. Dog meat approved. as he sniffed her. He's the only male dog on the ship. Yes, yes, super amazing, but understand you too. I pointed at Leliana and Sten. If you do something that would endanger our mission or hurt my friends, I will kill you. My voice was deadly serious. They both slowly nodded. Okay, Jack, Julie, can you help everyone who's staying in their rooms, please? Everyone else please line up. I have to give you your mission supplies. The supplies had 1 phone, 2 satellites, 5 gold coins, 2 journeyman level healing runes, 1 journeyman level mana absorption rune, and 1 pair of boots of swiftness handmade. This was a good number of supplies to cross most of Ferelden without much trouble. With the hawks paired with golems, hopefully, no one will die, but fate could be a bitch. I walked over to the Elder Templar. So, what have you learned today? I asked. And please remember, if you as nothing, I'm not going to dig you out. The Templar stayed quiet for a long moment. Make sure I know the whole truth before attacking, he said. I shrugged. Close enough. I stamped my foot and brought him out of the floor. He stumbles for a moment, before stabilizing himself. I walked over to the younger Templar with the girl. And you, young man, have you learned anything? He had a stubborn look on his face, and the young lady gently tapped him on the face. Don't attack blindly. Just because the mother says to attack doesn't make her right, and I should think for myself. He sounded dejected. Sounds like the hole did him good. I shoved him out onto his shaky legs. I looked over to the Chantry mother who had murder in her eyes. Nope, I completely ignored her. You guys can dig her out. I could hear her muttering what I can only imagine are curse words and death threats. Fair warning, the Darkspawn are heading this way, so I would suggest packing your things and heading to the nearest walled city. I walked over to the Hawks who were already ordering their new golems to help pack up the house. Hawk family, it has been a pleasure to meet you, but this will be where we part ways. Hopefully, I gave you enough to be able to make it to Kirkwall. I have no doubt it will be a wild ride. Good luck. I extended my hand. Garrett met it with his own. You're the one going to fight the Blight. I should be giving you a good luck speech, he said. May the Maker watch out for you, Leandra said. I just nodded. I didn't much care for the Maker, but she didn't need to know that. Carver just gave me a nod and Bethany hugged me. Thank you for saving my brothers, she whispered. She let go with a blush on her face. Carver's once look of grudging acceptance turned into an everyday scowl. Brother not liking his sister's male friends. I don't know why, but that brought up pleasant feelings. A little bit of normal before I got into all this crazy. Fergus, are you ready for your journey? He nodded. I gave the Hawks golems so the ride there should be smooth, but after Kirkwall, you'll be on your own. I reminded him. Here, I gave him his supplies. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this. I gave him a small redwood golem. He can shoot high-pressured water for 1 minute. It is lethal at close range, and will need to be charged after each use. How long does it take to charge? About 15 minutes. He can move all on his own, but he'll probably laze around in your bag. I warned. He nodded. I wished him luck. He asked me to keep his brother alive. I then turned to the wardens. Ken, John, will you guys be okay on your own? They waved me away. I may be old, but I'm not going to die while a blight is happening, Ken said. And I make sure nothing goes wrong. With any hope, we'll see you in the final battle, John said, giving me an arm shake. I gave them their supplies and wished them luck. I turned and walked towards Mother Base. As I reached the elevator, I looked over at the mother on the ground. I told you it was mine. The elevator began to rise. All she could do was watch me ascend.